Hi everybody, it's Adam with HeartValveSurgery.com, and we're in Los Angeles, California at the Society of Thoracic Surgeons Conference. I am thrilled to be joined by Dr. Marc Gerdisch, who's the Chief of Cardiac Surgery at Franciscan Health in Indianapolis, Indiana. Dr. Gerdisch, you and I have known each other for over 10 years.
Yeah.
It is great to see you again, and thanks for being with us today here at SDS. Thanks for being with me.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so Dr. Gerdisch, there's a lot of great presentations and research being shared here. You're giving talks, and we're also getting questions from patients coming in from all over the world. And this one comes in from Massimo, who asks, "Hi Adam, I found an interesting European study about outcomes of TAVR versus SAVR, conducted on a group of over 19,000 people aged 65 or older. What the study is revealing is that in patients aged 65 years and older with severe aortic stenosis, selection for SAVR is associated with improved long-term survival compared with TAVR. Thoughts?"
Yeah, this is really fascinating. What we've been seeing is kind of a pendulum swing. And if I'm going to take the clock back maybe 2 years when we started to see signals in younger folks that transcatheter valves weren't going to work out well for them. So there was this kind of fever that went across the entire nation, and people under 65 were receiving transcatheter valves. It still happens some. It came at such a pace that we started to recognize that we were suffering some ill consequences from that over time. And then if we look, and the reason for that is because we have to strategize on lifetime management. We also don't really understand fully the durability of transcatheter valves. We have some ideas, but we don't fully understand it. And we know in younger people that tissue valves wear out faster. They just don't last as long. So we have that, and then now what's being pointed out here is that even in folks that are over 65, we may see a signal, especially in some subgroups, especially the healthier ones, that those people who already have cooked into their physiology the opportunity to live a long time, they may do better with a surgical valve. So why does that even happen, right? So there's a few different things to think about. One of them is that when we put a transcatheter valve in, and this is just kind of some simple science and physics of the space and the aortic root, when we put a transcatheter valve in, and by the way, transcatheter valves have been revolutionary. They have changed the trajectory of life of so many people. They are really a marvelous technology. But when we put a transcatheter valve in, we force the native leaflets, so especially aortic stenosis, right? So we've got aortic stenosis, which means we've got calcification in the leaflets. The bulkier the calcification, the worse the stenosis most of the time. But also that means we move that bulky calcification out into the sinuses. So the sinuses are the little bulges at the first part of the aorta. So now you've got this cylinder of a valve, whatever transcatheter valve it is, and then you have these kind of lumps of calcium around them, and they create what are called neosinuses. This is the new sinus that's there because we have these masses that are in those sinuses. So here's the punchline though. People kind of thought, well, you just move it over and it just sit there, but it doesn't do that. It actually continues to change. So as people age in with their transcatheter valves, those masses are actually changing in shape and size and changing the flow dynamic in the aortic root and reorganizing the way the blood flow moves in the aortic root. So what we thought might be a static situation isn't. So in that sense, kind of just from a pathology within the aortic root sense, anybody who's got some longevity, they're going to see some continued change in the behavior of that tissue around the valve. Now you take that and you compound the impact of the unlikelihood that with every patient that you get a perfectly deployed valve, because you don't. Okay, so and that's one of the things that we see in the studies looking at explanted transcatheter valves, whether that be in someone who died or somebody who went on a transplant. We get to look at those valves, and the most recent paper came out of Vancouver, and they were looking at the calcification around the valve and showing us that it actually changed. But the other thing that is revealed every time we look at large numbers of transcatheter valves is they're not perfectly deployed. If they get perfectly deployed, you got a perfect circle, and all the leaflets are working the way you want them to. But most of the time, that's not what the architecture of the root allows. So you've got one leaflet that doesn't move quite as well. And if that's the case, then you have the potential for forming thrombus there and diminishing the longevity of the valve. So in my mind, this kind of mostly goes to the difference between the surgical valve. We cut everything out, we seat the valve is just the way we put it in, and it stays that way until the valve deteriorates in a tissue valve. In a transcatheter valve, we implant it and we think it looks good, but we don't have the granular information. So if we look at all the studies that have tried to compare transcatheter to surgical valves, the really common finding, without getting into the absolute numbers, because the reason I don't want to get into absolute numbers is because when we make these comparisons, there are confounding factors that we can't account for, like just the impression of the patient when he operated on them or did the transcatheter valve, the sensibility for that patient. But every time we look, we see two things. That immediately at the time of the procedure, advantage goes to transcatheter valves with respect to complications, right? Just kind of makes sense. You come in, do your valve, you go home the next day. The only complication that is always better in surgery, with surgery, is pacemakers. So especially in places that do a lot of aortic valve replacements, pacemaker rate is probably 2.5%, 3%. We look at it nationally, it might be 4.5% or something like that. And transcatheter valves would never get that low. But the other stuff is about equal, the incidence of stroke, mortality, and depending on the subpopulation of patients. But then when you get out to about 3 years is when we consistently see that the lines start to get close on mortality, which is what we're talking about. And you get out past 3 years, you get out to 5 years or so, you start to see a distinct difference. So there's some recent data published at 10 years, and it's pretty stark. I mean, it's a big difference in survival. So in summary, someone over 65 might be 68 or they might be 70. And the average 63-year-old in the United States has about a 20-year, on average, a 20-year lifespan. Now, some 65-year-olds hopefully are going to, 63, 65-year-olds are going to live 30 years or 35 years, but on average. So if we've got a 65 or 67-year-old, someone over 65 or 70-year-old that is robust, there's a good chance we're going to be dealing with that valve for quite a long time. And that's how this happens, right? The valve is not static. Tissue valves are not static. As soon as they go in, any tissue valve, they are subject to your immune system and the milieu that they're in. So they're all going to start to deteriorate. And if those leaflets aren't perfectly expanded, if there's any pinwheeling of it, et cetera, then we're going to see some accelerated deterioration. And I think we start paying that price when we get 3, 4, 5 years out. And that's why we see this data showing up now, because we needed the time. We needed to put those valves in people legitimately and appropriately, and then make those comparisons.
Massimo, I hope that helped you. I know it helped me, and Dr. Gerdisch, on behalf of Massimo and all the patients in our community, thanks for everything you and your team are doing at Franciscan Health in Indianapolis, Indiana. Thanks for being with me today.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Hi, everybody. It's Adam. I hope you enjoyed that video. And don't forget, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel, watch the next 2 educational videos coming up on your screen, or click the blue button to visit HeartValveSurgery.com.